Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Are you well? Now, today's topic is Web Application Firewall Evaluation Defending Modern APIs in Singapore Digital Landscape. So I'm the speaker, Kenneth Low, CISSP Technical Director for version 2 Singapore Limited. So let's get started. This is webinar, so you cannot turn on your mic in case you got any question or any problems. Please type in the chat or the question box. I will try to answer all of your questions right away or after the webinar through email. Okay. So today's agenda is the evaluation of web threats landscape, and we will provide a case study, kind of web portal vulnerabilities. We will just pick something recent, and that is quite difficult actually. So why traditional WAF fail, and the modern WAF capabilities, some Singapore context and compliance. Then last is I will talk about something about our solution called Penta security, and then Q&A. So what's the difference? What has been changed? Because web application we have been using for many years, over 20 years, I would say, yeah. So, but nowadays is most application is run through APIs, not just a simple web interface, and then we consume the service through browser. And also have lots of integration with cloud-to-cloud integrations to mobile, IoT, and others. And actually, there's more API traffics than normal HTTP requests because it happens a lot in backend. So when you browse a website, just like today, you open the webinar, there's a bunch of API in behind. So there's some common attack vectors targeting API and web services, broken authentication and authorization, sensitive data exposure via API, injection and parsing attacks, and business logic builds. And now we do see that cybercriminal try to exploit the API misconfiguration of bugs more than ever. So that's why we have to revisit so-called web application firewall, because it seems not enough with a simple level 7 web-based protection. So let's take a little bit look on the case study I picked. So this is just a very common vulnerability on a website, which allows attacker to remote control vehicle while their web API. It sounds scary, right? But that's how it works. And that's how it happens. Because even the nowadays machineries in hospital, MRI, and minutes, they work through APIs and many things like that. So once we penetrate, take over control of some of the API, then we can do lots of things. So the good cause of this case is an improper authentication and weak section management. That means hacker can hijack the section, override the permission, and then take over the high privilege control through the API. So the impact is unauthorized access to user accounts and vehicle controls, and a global recall and a reputation damage. Well, that's scary. Yeah, no one, at least me, I won't consider something similar anymore. And we have too many choices, right? Even the have a new one, or the price saying that, oh, we fixed all the bugs. We have many new measure to protect against your safety. I do wonder, right? So if you don't do it well, at least on security, don't release it and keep monitoring. Is something very important because nowadays our development cycle is very short and releasing cycle is very short. That boss CI/CD talking about like every 2 weeks have new versions. So monitoring is more important than testing. I would say testing is also important, but monitoring is more important from my point of view. Yeah. So modern WAF must detect and block abnormal API behavior, not just blocking known signatures. So yeah, because the API is created by someone internal that need not to have some signature or known attack targeting your API. So a API based WAF is something a little bit different. Okay, you can search your this case in more detail. Yeah, but just want to pinpoint there's an API attack that can be cause a massive issue. Okay, so why traditional WAF fail? Well, because most of them is based on simple HTTP request and response, and then there is a signature-based detection. In many cases, of course, there's something that AI, there's some threat intel or machine learning, whatever. Not everything is signature based because it won't work anymore. But at least rule based, right? Yeah. But the point is, it's designed for simple or direct client server or browser to web server requests, not that focus on those API protocols. They may struggle understanding the JSON, the GraphQL, and some complex API calls. You know, I see some response that has a 3 or 4 level or JSON nested that is nasty. It's really difficult to understand from third party point of view. This no matter it's not just WAF, like even you want to do like SIM or log management, it's a nightmare. But you know, you cannot control because sometimes it's from third party, sometimes it's from outsourcer. You cannot, and you're not worth to rewrite just because the format is not good to read, right? So that's there. So the problem is here, and sometimes it's very limited visibility to the API schema. Of course, we have some open standard for the how the APIs be called. They have documents sometimes, but nowadays, you know, from my experience working with third-party APIs, it always happens something hidden. It always having something not documented. And when you are lucky enough, you got an up-to-date documents, it works fine. But there's something sometimes hidden parameters, or the new version of the function call or the API is exposed but not documented. So this is quite a interesting thing, right? Let's think of it this way. For example, I got a documents or they are coming from online that have 10 calls with different function and features, but the actual expose is 12. So even the user may not, the user, I mean the developers that using those API, not the end users, okay, the consumer of the API, having documents, they don't know that two APIs. But for hackers, they are not, first of all, they may not have the documents. Even they have documents, they know that there is something hidden sometimes. So they will try to do some enumeration attack or whatever, that they stick out those hidden API. Maybe those API is not well tested, it's not protected, or even have some hook or others function for testing purpose. That can be very bad, right? And one thing is, nowadays we are talking about microservice. So there's a massive API call between microservice for a single user request. And sometimes it's difficult to correlate, or for this bunch of call is related to which section of which user. So that means that authentication or authorization is quite rely on the code itself. And from the WAF point of view, it's difficult to differentiate is this is legitimate or something that's attack. And in return, it's difficult to do behavioral analysis to find out some anomaly behavior to detect. Because there's now API focus, WAF can do better, but those here is all those shortfall for the traditional WAF. So of course, every vendors will evaluate and improve and upgrade the solutions. So that we just review your existing solution. Can they do that? Okay. And how about you, how is your microservice or your API call application works? Even your internal don't have API, but you do still calling external API, right? So that's the point. So you may ask, so what's the common tag or yeah, for those API? So you can take a look on OWASP API Security Top 10. Well, those are quite typical. Sometimes it's very similar to normal web call, but yeah, you have time, you take a look. Today we are not focused on here, but just give you a reference, some like a bookend authentication that we just mentioned in the case study, or there's no restriction on the resource consumption. So for example, if you got a API, it may be heavy, quite consume much resources, and not, for example, normal users should not be calling like more than 10 times in a minute. So if someone just dumping, calling your API, that will cause you a denial of service. That's also a form of attack, right? So putting a rate limit or whatever, that's important. Many others like untracked API exposure, really something like that. That I just mentioned. Yeah, some hidden API, even not documented, but it's exposed. It can be called. So yeah, so that's top 10. You may take a look later if you're interested. So so how to fight against that? So static rules and to intelligent protections. So based on the rule base, of course, some of them can be blocked, but we do need some more in-depth analysis on your API traffic. So more depth in traffic inspection, schema validation. For example, you know each API have their own schema that will also explode when they explode the API. So we should cross-check on those schema, because if they not follow, there may be a bug on the caller's code, but sometimes it is a target tag or whatever. So ready against the traffics, either follow a schema to call, username is calling username, numbers is numbers, etc., etc., right? And machine learning for abnormal detections is also very important. For example, especially we can find out the anomaly, massive call, or unnecessary call for those heavy resources that we can find through machine learning. And we should integrate with our API gateways or DevSecOps to ensure those authentication and authorization is in place correctly. You know, for many microservices, some developer is just create a dirty hard coding or the token and credential. That can be a problem, right? So there's one thing that I have to notice. And we need an adaptive protection to fight against zero-day threats. Well, for API, it is quite. It's not. Okay. Let's just think this way. For normal WAF service, more or less we can detect through they may more or less attacking the web server vulnerabilities or the API gateway or application layer vulnerabilities that more or less is more easy to detect. Most common landscape, but for API, although we have standard, but everyone is different, right? So I would say all of them are 0-day for many proprietary APIs, right? Long common APIs. So some adaptive and intelligence detection is very important, crucial on that, because we release we may have updates or API every month, every 2 months, and how can the definition can fall up, right? Even we don't have time to test it at all. So Penta security approach is a unified WAF and API gateway for traditional web protections. So we can offer something similar. So let's go in a little bit on the Singapore context, but actually it's very similar to all over the world, but we do have an increasing PDPC enforcement of the data exposure around APIs. So API breach now reportable under Singapore PDPA and Cybersecurity Act. So it covers, but actually the law doesn't say it don't cover, right? So it doesn't matter how you expose for API or for web, but the government do alerts that the API is a problem. Yeah, it is so you can report through API related problem. And the common challenge for the localization in Singapore is we have API multiple cloud API swap, limit visibility to the external API usage, and compliance in all the gaps. Because I would say API is not new, but protection or WAF on API more or less is something new, not just for the WAF world, but also like the SIEM, SIEM, and many protections that we start to very focused, because in the early years, we usually consumers of those API. We're using API from Google, using API from vendors, major vendors. But nowadays we switching our development from more and more on DevOps, that we are exposing API ourselves, maybe internally, but through the internet, or exposed to our partners. So that creates the numbers change and the landscape change. So that's why we have more compliance and audit gaps, just because of we have more API exposed by ourselves, not like Google and those giants, because they have their own concern, that but we have limitation. So we do need to have a WAF that help to bridge the compliance gap, that provide visibility, traceability, and automation to protect against those API attacks. Okay, so how can we do that? Well, let's quickly overview about our solutions called Penta Security. Well, now we call it WAAP, Web Application and API Protection. So we have four main areas. The first one is the so-called traditional one. We still have attack on the level 7 web attack applications, right? Still there. So we still need that, and we have to do it very well. And the second tier is API protections. So we respond to resolve those API schema-based attack, prevents API-based DDoS and all those top 10 API security risk. So we have to rules to find out and detect those attacks. And also we have two more layers. One is bot protections. I don't know if you guys noticed that. To me, is from to many web administrator or server administrator, they will say the bot itself is the major source of a DDoS attack. Well, they don't mean to take down your server, but you know, in the AI era, there's so many company running those bots to harvest most any website, any data, because all those AI giants, they need data to train the engine, the models. So they have a very aggressive bot. So today when there's a new website or they will come to you, and they sometimes the rate is very high. There maybe some website is the top visitor is all the top 10 are all bots. The bots from not just from Google, not just from Microsoft, not from Brain, but also many others AI companies, namely like OpenAI, ByteDance, Anthropic, and Google also, Microsoft also, Copilot also. They are running lots and lots of bots. So, well, I think there's two things. One is, do you want them to get your web data? Some is welcome, some didn't. So you can manage and block those, I won't say misdemeanors, but some is aggressive bots. But of course, there is some misdemeanors bot that try to harvest, not just because they want data, but also try to find out something, some wannabes or any others that in your site. So have a proper bot management is crucial to survive, to make your site up and running nowadays. So Penta Security do provide very good tools, and they help you to identify good and bad bots access. But you know, even I won't say OpenAI or those models is a bad bots, but the result sometimes is bad because they call your API, they call your web. Because sometimes they call a website and the website call API. API is something have resource hungry that if the rate is too high, it in result is a DDoS, right? Or denial of service, a single, not distributed. But that's bad enough, right? So not everyone put lots of resources to the web server bandwidth because we pay to serve our customers. We're not paid to serve the bots, right? So brought some bots as you want. You even it's not bad or too bad or not too bad or whatever, you can control. Okay, you can bot those bots. So that's bot, right? Not just API. Yeah, there's so if you not notice that you may pay too much for the bots, right? Because if you're hosting on a public cloud, the traffic is chargeable. Yeah, that's one thing you need to notice. Last, of course, the DOS mitigation, yeah, of the packet and others to minimize the impact for those denial of service attack. Well, I think if, of course, if there is a massive distributed denial of service, just a WAF cannot do much. But in case there's a single denial of service, not very large scale, definitely we can help to mitigate and make sure normal users still can visit your site. And we have a very unique engine. It called the COCEP, COPE, which is called Content Classification and Evaluation Process. So we have our own proprietary engine to do like a URL recognition, protocol validation, and data splitting, in-depth web traffic analysis, and then apply counter measurements and do loggings. So we have a we'll have the engine to break down all your calls, API calls or web HTTP calls, and the requests and headers and contents and many others. So we break down into very depth small pieces and apply our rule engine and our all others AI engines to help you to detect it. Okay. So we have besides the engine, we have more rules, but just for reference, not going to discuss all of them, but like like so-called low SQL injection, all the injections, or the others, many others patterns. We still use known signatures, of course, right? But the COBE engine is more important for us because we bottoms up to for the analysis for the basic protocol, break down the data and do analysis to ensure every piece of data is okay to call through our gateway and to hit your APIs. Okay. So, Mr. Icons. Okay. Anyway, so there's a quick summary. The best practice of API security is inventory and classify all exposed APIs. Some APIs may be for public, may not need any authentication. There's a public service that will expose. That's one thing. But for others, like need authentication, may be having something sensitive or confidential data, that's other things. So classify them, make sure the proper protection and monitoring apply to different level of sensitivity. And enforce strict authentication and authorization. Make sure that we have a proper layer of role base or whatever base of the control access control and proper access for those different kind of API. Make sure there's those public pro exposed API do have authentication, because sometimes developers like to do some bypass for authentication for easy their testing or other purpose, but make sure the production one still do proper authorization. And those are basic on the validation of input and output against the schema. That should be done by code and should be done also by WAF. Okay. And yeah, and the weight limit. So apply a weight limit no matter what. You can set a better higher threshold if you think it's okay to be in code, but don't leave it unlimited. Never, ever leave it unlimited, because that will be a exposed in your, if you're using public cloud, you expose your bills. If you use a private cloud or on-prem server, you expose your network, and that's a jam and service, whatever. So do put a weight limit. Yeah. If there is so-called unlimited, you put a higher limit. It's not unlimited. Never ever unlimited. And always say, as I said, monitoring is very important. Log and monitor and analyze our API traffic. Of course, you need not to do it manually. You should do a SIM, whatever, then integrate some AI capability to find out some anomaly or whatever. Yeah, so log and monitoring is also important. And then continuous test and verify the API configurations, verify your app WAF policies applied correctly, not whitelisting everything, So there's some basic best practice. This slide is a little bit outdated, just for your reference that WAFs, our solutions having like a hardware model, software model, or you can put in private cloud or public cloud. Yeah, so it's a very flexible, but those number is not correct already because we have a new model. But we have, I think it's changed from 7 megabits per second to 10 gigs, yeah, something like that, and yeah, more efficient nowadays. So our short takeaways, summaries. So API expose your digital capability and also your attack surface. Increase your attack surface. You provide more surface towards the public, that will be a new exposure. So do monitor and safeguard all those API. And the car incident is really, really show that how API protection is important and how it can be go wrong in case of API doesn't protect properly. Modern API integrate with AI, behavior analysis, and schema validation to protect both web application and APIs. Compliance and resilience go hand in hand under our Singapore data protection landscape. So make sure we do protect it. That's all for today's content. If you have any questions, please do, you can send me email, or even you can book me a sections. We can talk, we can have a quick chat on that. So that's all today. Let's see if any questions. Someone asked about the HA or deployment. Well, WAFs have a HA deployment that multiple device failover, whatever. If you really have interest, that we can, you can contact us. That we can do a proper product presentation and tell you what kind of deployment option we have, because we can do reverse proxy, we can do inline failover, many ways that we can do, even a simple proxy, whatever. Okay, so that's all. I don't see any other questions. Let me take a look. Okay, so that's all for today. Once again, if you have any questions, please email me or contact ourselves, or book me a time to check. Yeah, so Kennedy Kenneth -93/15 Okay. So also we will put our recording to our YouTube channel. So do subscribe our YouTube channel. We have all our webinar put in there. Some of them is quite interesting. Hope you guys enjoy today's content. Thank you. Bye-bye.